Hey, what do you want to do tonight?
The same thing we do every night, Pinky. Try to take over the world.
Hey guys, welcome to Good Vibes Sunday. So I'm extra excited today because I get to have one of my great friends, Amanda Cooper, come on the show today. I always say Amanda is the Instagram techie guru, right? So she's taught me so much about just some little hacks that we wish to share with you all. Amanda's a fellow interior designer, and she's been so kind to come on and teach you all how to build your following, how to build your Instagram account for your business. All right, guys, so let's get to it. Hey everyone. All right, so we have our friend Amanda here, and Adam's here too.
Hello, hello.
All right, Amanda. So Amanda, we're really excited to have you on. First of all, thank you for coming on with us.
Of course.
Amanda, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yes, I am a residential interior designer based out of Birmingham, Alabama.
Mm-hmm.
And I also run a design blog that was just started in 2017 that covers what's living for the modern millennial, and it's called The Modern Edit.
Right.
I'm actually originally from Chicago and moved to Alabama in 1997. I actually was a flutist for, I'd say, about 10 to 12 years, and did that and thought that was going to be my life.
Right.
Until starting in college, and then ended up getting a journalism degree instead, and found that I really enjoyed writing.
Sure.
And then eventually went back to school for interior design, and so I kind of do a mix of both now through the Modern Edit, which has been a ton of fun.
Absolutely. And
Super cool, Amanda.
Yeah, no, absolutely, Amanda. And I love all your work. I mean, I was telling them is that I've learned also so much from you just in the short time that we've known each other. And I was telling them how I met you on social media. So it's such a great portal for people to meet. So, all right,
Yeah.
Amanda, well, I have some questions. Can you tell us a little bit about your tech background? Like, how did you get started with I called you a tech guru, so don't get mad when I say that. But, I do. I feel like you've been so cool. Like on Instagram, I see all that graphic stuff you do, and it really draws everybody in, and it really brings everybody in. So how have you gotten started with tech?
Well, in regards to learning and kind of mastering tech, it really started when I was very little. My dad is actually a database administrator, or has done that for many, many years. He actually has a sociology degree and then ended up working in computers, and so he was always, just doing things at home on the computer, and we were, one of the first people around where we lived that had a personal laptop back in the day.
Oh, wow.
And so I think some of that kind of started with him, and then ever since then, I've just kind of kept up with it myself. A lot of my previous degrees, like in journalism, required that. They had a lot of layout classes, touching on like typography and layout skills. And then once I graduated college, a lot of interior design is creating digital boards, and so
Absolutely.
I just kind of carried that knowledge to that. And then it kind of helps that my husband is the VP of software architecture at the software firm he works for in Birmingham, and so it kind of helps that I have somebody who is definitely a bigger expert in tech than I am, and so
Absolutely.
I'm always asking him how to do things, or if he doesn't know how to do things because he doesn't use social media, I kind of try to teach him things like that. So just kind of always been around software people.
Yeah.
So I
Very
guess
cool,
that's kind of
Very
helped
cool.
form my knowledge today of what I've learned and picked up, and then expanded upon myself. Plus I research a lot on my own. My husband and I, we don't have children, but we have 3 dogs, and so we spend a lot of our time working, and we like to research. We like to read articles. We Google anything that we don't know and teach ourselves how to do that. And so I think it's really just picking up on a skill and then trying to just find out everything you can about it and teaching yourself how to do it, and then just continuing that because it's ever changing. So It's something you
Absolutely.
kind of have to keep up with always.
Absolutely. Sounds kind of familiar,
Nothing that you can get from a textbook, I tell you that much. It's a lot of applying yourself.
Absolutely. A lot of
Exactly.
self-taught. No, absolutely. I mean, that's fun. You know what? That's funny you say that, because Adam and I always used to make fun, because when we were both in school, he would help me with some of my writing, or if he was doing a paper, I would help him with a lot of writing. And it's carried on until today. And every time we're reading something, we're constantly going back and forth about what we're learning or what we're doing.
Lots of brainstorming.
Lots of brainstorming.
Yeah.
So
Exactly.
that's cool. That's great that you guys do that. All right, Amanda. So what can you tell us about hashtags? How many should we be using?
Well, it's first we're gonna get into Instagram. I think what we should be talking about, right?
What, social media?
Yeah,
Are you
social
correcting
media,
me?
Yes, I think.
All right. So yes. Amanda, what can you tell us about social media?
So social media, in the sense of how should we start it, and then I think we go straight into the hashtags and stuff like that and break it down. Correct?
Okay, sure.
Okay. So what would you like me to talk about first? Hashtags, or do you want me to talk about just social media in general?
Yeah, let's go ahead and talk about some hashtags.
Okay. So in terms of hashtags, I feel like a lot of people kind of have a misunderstanding about the purpose of them. Instagram itself allows you to have a total of 30 hashtags that you can either use in your caption, or you can use in your comments, or you can use it in combination of both. But it won't allow you to post any more than 30. So I've seen over the years since being on Instagram from the start is that I think a lot of people, in a way, because hashtags have become such a part of our culture,
Right.
I mean, people even use them in jokes and social commentary, with a funny phrase where they'll say hashtag something, and it's obviously, a joke, and it's kind of, a little bit more comical when you add the hashtag in front of it. So I think a lot of people then, when they use them on Instagram, have come to think that using a hashtag and then applying some kind of satire or comedical phrase behind that that's something that really plays into their caption or their sense of humor. And I completely get the idea behind that, because a lot of television and movies have really kind of steered hashtags in the wrong way.
Absolutely.
But what I want to say is that the real basis behind a hashtag is not actually for that purpose. It's actually as a filter. It's the same thing as when you were to, let's say, go onto Google and you wanted to order a pair of shoes. Obviously, you have something in mind. You're not just looking for any shoe. You likely are looking for a sneaker or, a really great, high heel shoe for a wedding, something, whatever it may be. But of course, Google doesn't know what you're looking for specifically. So if you simply type in shoe, it's going to come back with millions of results from everything across the web. And so the way that you would narrow that down is obviously you start typing in search filters, things like, Gucci shoe, black Gucci shoe, Nike sneaker. And so you'd be looking for things to narrow that down in order to what you would presume would come across your ideal shoe that you're looking for. Well, a hashtag is the same thing, only it's tagging a photo. And so the photo is, in a way, like a product on Google. And the best way for people to be able to find your photo amongst the 800 million users that are on Instagram daily is to be able to use hashtags. And so when you use that, you want it to be used to your advantage, to where your photo is the one that can be found, and then it's the one that winds up in the top post section, which is the first, I believe it's 6 or 9 photos that are at the top of any hashtag that you go to search for. If you wind up there, usually you're pretty golden on getting likes immediately, because that's the first section of photos that anybody sees when they search that hashtag.
Okay.
And so in using hashtags, you want them to be relevant, but you want to be careful with what you use for them. A lot of people sometimes wind up using industry jargon as their hashtag, and unfortunately, unless your Instagram profile, its purpose for your particular audience is to reach other industry professionals, that would be perfectly fine. But if your goal, like in most of our cases, is to find clients and people who who would be interested in purchasing a product, you're looking for people like that. And so somebody like that has no knowledge of industry terms. They'd be looking for more simplistic things like design ideas or design inspo or interior design details. And so you have to utilize hashtags that a client would be searching for, somebody who is not in the industry, who wouldn't know some of the terms that you maybe reference in your particular part of the creative community.
Sure.
And so by doing that, you would be alienating yourself from your key target audience. The other thing to look for in your hashtags is making sure that they don't have too many posts that are listed under each hashtag, only because when you do so and you use an overly popular hashtag, that hashtag is having a post up on it like every second, even with that many millions of users. And so when you use a hashtag that's too overly popular, it immediately pushes your post down to where nobody's going to find it unless somebody's willing to look a long way down a list of numerous posts in that hashtag.
Sure.
So the key would be to using hashtags that have 500,000 posts or less, because that means they're still relevant. People are searching for them, so they're actually looking for that term, which is good. But then on top of that, you're not going to get lost amongst everybody else that's also posting in a hashtag like that as well.
Right, because there's millions of them just coming up, by, like you said, by the second. So
yes.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right. That's all good information. Even for myself. I mean, you said it the other day, and I was like, wow, I really didn't think about that, because I know I had been hashtagging, interior design decor, this and that. And I was like, she is right. So now I'm a lot more careful with that.
Yeah.
So for sure. All right.
I think it's just like what Amanda said, like describing a shoe, like a black, white, Jordans or something like that. And I think it really helps hone in on certain things. I think if you were to
hone describe,
it down, hone down your picture so someone can find it.
But is it true, Amanda, too, that you don't want to hone it so much that it's impossible, right? So, because if you get so specific, then it's almost like impossible for people to find you. So, is there a bracket? You had said you don't want to go over 500,000, but what about how much? Would you say there's a fine line between how much you can go down? Like, you don't want to be too down, like 100 hashtags.
Yes. I'd probably stick to anything that's got at least 5,000 to 500,000, because that means that people are definitely searching for it. Because if it's anything under 5,000, that means really nobody is thinking to search for that term. And then anything over 500,000, again, is getting lost. So I think that's kind of the sweet spot, is somewhere between 5,000 and 500,000 is a good number to shoot for.
Sounds good. Yeah, no, we like that, Amanda. All right, Amanda, so what about this new algorithm? I mean, we keep seeing everybody in their stories posting, check out my latest post, and that they're doing that because a lot of people aren't seeing their posts. What do you think that Instagram or Zuck or whatever is doing, and why is it that no one is seeing, as many posts as they used to be seeing?
From what I've read through Instagram's blog and then other news articles that people have done case studies on this and trying to figure out and understand exactly how the algorithm works. From my understanding, and I know everybody really loved it back when it was in chronological order because they felt like they saw everybody's post more often then. But according to Instagram, that wasn't always the case. That actually more often you were missing a lot of people's posts because you were simply seeing whatever was the newest post. But it didn't always mean that those posts in particular were ones you were actually going to like. And so the algorithm was developed in order to kind of fight through all the noise and, is purported to give you specifically posts that you would like based on your actions. And so a lot of Instagram, especially posts that you may see in your news feed yourself, not even talking about getting your posts out to other people, but even when you see on your own news feed, it's all tailored based on your actions. And so Instagram itself kind of logs and tracks whose profiles you search for the most, whose people's posts you like the most, whose people's posts you comment on, people that you even have direct messages with, people even based on similar locations. If you use geotagging in there, it'll also pull up posts that are related to that based on who you follow. And so even though, let's say, maybe you follow 700 people on your Instagram alone, you're likely not even seeing all 700 people you follow on there, only because it's not that it doesn't think that they're relevant, but based on your usage of Instagram, it eventually just tracks exactly what you do and realizes that, maybe over time you used to see some of these posts more, but maybe you don't see them as much anymore. And that's likely because you weren't going in and liking or commenting or searching for them or interacting with them as much anymore. And so it eventually would screen that person out of your newsfeed and then keep the ones that seems to be that you interact and like the most. And so it's good. So it's going to work the same way with how your posts are seen by other people as well. And so, unfortunately, there's no controlling that. That's kind of up to each user and whether or not they're going in and interacting with you and liking and commenting and checking out your profile and even interacting with you as a direct message. And so, really, everybody's kind of trying to fight the same thing here. But unfortunately, it's all kind of controlled by our behavior. And so, in a way, it's just kind of learning how to tailor yourself to be something, and again, this comes back to not only the hashtags, but what photos you're posting and what you're sharing, is to really get more in tune with your specific audience, find out what your target audience likes, what posts tend to do better with them more often, and then learning how to really tailor your feed to fit what they're looking for. And really, unfortunately, there's not another better way to beat the algorithm except for the fact that by creating what they did with the algorithm, they're really trying to make it more of an organic reach to those who really do want to see what your posts are, as opposed to just throwing your name out there to a whole bunch of people that may or may not have ever been fans of what you're posting in the first place.
It's like making your Instagram profile like a little marketing niche. You're trying to just a little, your demographic little pod, I guess you want to call it, quote unquote pod.
No pun intended. No, but what about this? Because I remember reading an article about Zuck talking about him wanting to take away the power from the big companies. So is that true? Is that because I read that they basically want, your Instagram follower to act like a human, because this actually leads me to my next question about fake followers, bots. They're trying to get rid of, so Zuck talked about pushing all of these bots and fake followers out almost and giving the power back to the regular folks, and then taking it away also a little bit away from the bigger companies who are basically getting all the traction and attention. Did you read the same thing? Is that something that you're familiar with too? Or am I crazy?
No, yes, I most definitely had read very similar articles talking about that, because when they had switched to this new algorithm, basically before there was just no filtering out anything. It was just anybody that you followed, would see their post. If you scroll down far enough in the day, you'd eventually come across everybody's. But this way, it's obviously meant to really, like what Adam said, to tailor your feed and yourself to a specific niche, which a lot of people, whether your account is actually marked as a business account or not, most people that are on there tend to be more business-related accounts that sell a product, offer a service, anything like that. And so they were trying to create a way that offers more of an organic way to reach followers and other like-minded individuals who would really appreciate your post and therefore grow your following more, because it's just like in marketing. You're not trying to just reach all masses. You're looking for very particular people who would likely use your product or service over somebody else. And so a lot of people are kind of trying to game the algorithm to the benefit of the big business by using people that they call influencers. These would be like bloggers and individuals who are being offered payment in return for an Instagram post in order to promote that business. And so a lot of these big businesses then were gaining more and more numbers for themselves, and not just for the influencer, but for that business, because the person would go on there and give a caption, give a photo, marketing that item for somebody, and they'd get numerous people to do this all at once, which then benefited that big business. So this year, they've been trying to change the algorithm again, just a little bit. They've been tweaking it to where that is not always the case. That they're trying to favor not necessarily a personal account, but just businesses and people who are smaller in size. They're not massive companies. They're trying to target more of those people because the original intention of Instagram, or at least what I would like to think of it, was that it was meant to be a community of like-minded people who could get together and they could share their service and product to people that, they really needed to reach, that maybe you can't always get on just the internet with a website. This was where you could actually interact back and forth with your potential customers and clients. And so they're kind of trying to get back to that. So I think sometimes while the algorithm may seem kind of evil and like it's against you, I think that you just have to know exactly like who your target audience is and really tailor yourself and your post to that instead of trying to get the biggest amount of numbers as quick as possible. Their goal is to do it in more of an organic way to where the interaction is real and it's not just just simply a numbers game where everything's kind of on the surface. They're really trying to get everybody's followers and just even other creatives that follow each other to really have people hone in on that personal side of things and not have it be so focused on a big business account.
Absolutely, Amanda. That is so good.
It's really good. Crucial information right there.
So crucial.
But I feel like it's like, I feel like if you're not an avid Instagrammer, I feel like it could be overwhelming. Like, this is so much information. Like, how am I ever going to start?
Well, it's so funny because, we told people even in Adam's office, and if you're listening, hi. No, but we told them, we said, tune on in because, even in Adam's office, it's a real estate office, and a lot of them were asking, they have these meetings and they start talking about social media, and a lot of people seem so lost. They were like, well, we don't know how to go about it with, even starting a business. And this goes not just for a creative business, but it mostly just goes, I feel like, honestly, it's pretty relevant to just about any business. We're honing really in on anything creative, but I think it really is helpful for just anybody. So what would you say about fake followers? Because I know that, it's a big deal because there's so many people out there. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to say this. I used to work at Sound. It was a place out in LA, and there was this girl that I met, and this is back in 2012. I want to say way back when, and she had bought 100,000 followers back then. And she was a big time, she was just starting off then. Now she's huge.
She was a fashion blogger, right? Sure,
yeah. She was a fashion blogger back then, and now she's big time. So now she's got over 1 million followers. And it's funny because, I'm not going to say who, but I know personally that she bought followers way back when. And back then, apparently it helped because she, really gained a following.
She catapulted to the...
Absolutely. It was like no one, back then I feel like it was a different situation.
It was taboo.
Well, it was taboo. I feel like it's still taboo today, but I think that the biggest thing is just the algorithm, because I feel like back then, if you had more than 10,000 followers, you were already ahead of it. Nobody wants to be alone to the party, right? Yeah. So they're like, oh, person got 10,000 followers, click and follow. So, but I feel like that's how she grew her following, and then, over time it started to grow organically, but, right time, right place, I guess you can say.
Well, I think back then, I think you can relate, Instagram, it was so new and innovative. Even online dating was different.
Taboo.
You were like, who does that? Now it's normal, but now it's everybody's trying to catch up to everything now.
Right. Back then it was so new. No one was really doing it, especially for businesses. Back then everybody personally had an account, and if it wasn't right. So what I'm saying is that I feel like today no one can really get away with that. I feel like you cannot buy followers and really get away with it because you're not going to grow organically, perhaps, versus the way it was, a few years ago, back in 2012, 2013, 14. So what would you say about that? Because you personally told me, because I know that there's a bunch of bots out there. There's a bunch of weird accounts sometimes that follow us.
First off, what are bots for people out there who don't know what bots are, Amanda?
A bot is account that was created that is not really managed by an individual person. I don't know if any of you had seen last season of Homeland, but Homeland in particular covered it well. A lot of times they are a company that has created numerous fake accounts and then go out to other people's real accounts and then start following them. And a lot of times, while that may seem like, okay, well, what's the big deal? You know, I didn't follow them back or whatever. They're just following me, so it's okay if I don't delete them. But the problem is because, again, the algorithm takes into account who your followers are, not only in what I was talking about earlier with them interacting with you and liking your post and commenting and checking out your profile. They also take into account just your followers in general, where they're located, who they are, who their interests are. And because these companies go in and create these bots, you know, they give them like a fake background, they give them a fake name, you know, give them fake followers even, making it look like they're a legitimate account to trick Instagram itself. And so by having and keeping any of those followers, while it may, you know, seem like that's such a, you know, a horrible thing to have to go and do is to delete them and then lower your number. It actually bounces back so much faster than you would believe, because as soon as you eliminate those fake accounts that have started following you, you'll actually start getting back a lot of those legitimate followers. I can say from experience when I was just starting my interior design company last year, and even though I've been on Instagram for a while, numbers and things like that didn't matter to me as much because it was more of like a personal account. But in starting a business, obviously your goal is to get recognized by more people for what you do and get your name out there. So in the summer of last year, I actually tried buying followers, and I did, and I had some on there for a while, but they never give you quality accounts. They're always, and this is nothing against people in other countries whatsoever, but they do tend to give you like a ton that are from like South America and the Middle East, things like that. And I'm sure there are like perfectly relevant accounts that come from those countries, but the accounts that they give you are all people who, they're not going to interact with you, they're not going to engage, they're simply there just to be a number on your profile. And while you think that would help, and I think it used to, like what you were saying, Astrid, back in the day before they changed this whole algorithm and really tried to kind of take back a system that had kind of gotten out of control with things like that, people growing their following that way, they've kind of tried to rein that back in. And so by having all of those accounts, though, kept on your profile and not eliminating them, it can keep your post from being seen by relevant people. And so even by buying followers, you think that would be a bonus, but it actually isn't, because they won't interact back with you and they're not a quality following. It's not doing you any favors, because again, then the algorithm is definitely working against you. If the whole point of it is to, you know, read what followers are doing on your profile, and since those people are just there to be numbers, your profile is going to be seen even less by the target audience you really needed to reach, because you thought that by getting numbers was the real trick to it, when it's really not. And so it might have been useful back then, because I don't think it was as much of a big deal. They didn't even really have business accounts like they do now. And so I think they're kind of trying to take that back. So you can definitely tell when they're going in and cleaning house and trying to get rid of those Instagram accounts. Because usually, like overnight, when you get up the next day and you maybe see you're missing like 20, now, some of that could be, a couple of people have decided to leave, but usually when you kind of see them in bigger numbers, a lot of times that can be Instagram, where they're going in and they're eliminating those accounts themselves because they're not in keeping with Instagram's guidelines.
That's so interesting that you say that, because I literally would wake up some days and like be missing like 10 followers. All of a sudden they'd be gone. And I was like, what is going on? Are people just like unfollowing me? Do I have to change my content, or what's going on? But that's hilarious that you say that, because I literally... do you want to... All right, guys, so we're back. We had a little mishap there, but we're back. So Amanda was touching on bots and quality followers, or bots versus quality followers. Amanda, so let's get right...
More is not always better compared with Amanda.
With all of us. That's what she's telling all of us, is that, you have these bots, and that's what I wanted to ask you, Amanda, was, sometimes we'll get these bots or we have to go through our entire following. So for someone new that's listening in today, Amanda, how would you describe their process? So would they have to go through their entire following and kind of find the ones that seem a little sketchy, or do they begin as of today and say, okay, well, today I got a person from the Middle East who, like we said,
what if Bill down the street wants you? You're like, I don't like Bill.
No, but should they start to eliminate them as of today, or should they go through their entire following and kind of go one by one? How would you recommend they get started?
The way I typically do it is, I would say for somebody new, this would still apply. For anybody that likely already has some followers, even if it's just, a few, even if it's less than 100, it doesn't matter. I feel like you could, even just take the weekend when you just have some time. You don't have to go through like your whole following, especially if you have a lot of people, a couple thousand followers. I wouldn't necessarily have to sit there and go through the entire thing in a day, but maybe go through and kind of try to figure out where you might have left off last when you scroll down, because usually it's almost always in the same order. Actually, there's a little bit different ordering versus when you look at it on a laptop versus when you look at it on the actual mobile app. Okay. On the mobile app, your followers will actually be listed in a particular order, and then on the computer, it's actually a little bit different. But either way, I think it's fairly easy to kind of tell where you left off last when you're going through and doing this process of eliminating people. I just go through and see based on how many followers you have. If it's 100, maybe try to take 5 to 10 a day and scroll through and see if there's any bad accounts in there. And if you've got a larger following, try to maybe do it, by going through 100 that day. But really, you really should start as soon as today if you have any bit of a following, going back through and seeing if any followers are not quality followers. And when we say non-quality followers and bot accounts, these are things that you want to look for, because some of them sometimes can get mistaken for a bot account, and it's not always the case. So there's no foolproof way to tell this or not, but usually I can tell by a couple of these ways. So one is if people don't have a profile picture, sometimes that can be an indicator. Yes. Not always, sometimes.
Yes.
You try to look for that first. The next steps you can look for after that to see if that's actually the case and they're a bot or not would be to see one, if they have no followers, and then it looks like they're following like 5,000 people.
Right.
Usually that one's a bot because they had no reason to go through and actually create themselves a profile and post any photos. Instead, its only purpose is to go follow other people. So that's usually one way you can tell. Another one you can also tell, or at least in my mind, I think that this indicates that they're a bot, is if they have no posts of their own, but they themselves have 60, 100, 500 or so followers themselves. Because to me, unless there's somebody who just for whatever reason was like a really well-known person, that they got an Instagram for the purpose of themselves going on and being able to like and comment on other people's things, and there's somebody that's really well-known, so other people just saw it, saw the name, and thought, oh, I want to follow them because, I like them, but they just never post. Okay, that would be one thing. But most of the time, most people you see that tend to have no posts but a bunch of followers, those are also fake accounts, because in all reality, how many accounts would you follow that had absolutely no posts and no profile picture? Mm-hmm. You wouldn't follow them because there's nothing to follow. They're not posting, they're not sharing, there's nothing to interact with. That's usually how I can tell. Another way to tell that the person may or may not actually be a bot, but they won't necessarily be a quality follower. And I definitely do not say this in any way to mean anything against any particular country or nationality. But a lot of times the ones in particular, because I think they get used so much as kind of origins for bot accounts, is in South America and the Middle East. Usually you can tell the ones that aren't really going to interact is because maybe it looks like a really young individual in their photo, and a lot of times the ones that you can tell are kind of fake is that there might be a profile that's posted on their actual feed feed, when you go to it to see if there's somebody that you want to block, it'll, like, for some reason, they always like to list their age a lot.
Okay.
And usually that's one that you can tell is a bot, or at least somebody who's not going to be a quality follower, is if, you know, it requires a translation to have to read what their profile actually says, or if it's one that specifically calls out their age a lot. I mean, just to be honest, not like young people can't use Instagram. Obviously they do. But likely for your account, especially for a business or service, they're just not going to be somebody who's going to interact with you or likely use your business in the future. And so accounts like that sometimes are ones that can be considered not somebody that would be a quality follower.
That sounds really familiar.
Yeah.
I've had like so many. You know, it's one of those things that is so time consuming, but it has to be done. And Amanda, I have to say, since you've told me to do that, I have gained back so many of them that I've already, you know, and at first I was like, gosh, that hurts. You know, of course you want to have your, you want to have your number intact, and it feels like, gosh, I'm taking away all my efforts here, but, in time, but no. I mean, you're right. And the fact is that I've noticed that a lot of the following that we've been getting back, or I've been gaining back, is a lot of the following is actually they're people that I want to be marketing to. They're people that I want seeing my posts versus the ones that I've gotten rid of that are, like you said, they're almost just a number. So that's really good.
Is that just because the ratio is better? The ratio is better, so it kind of Instagram algorithm hones in more on those people since the ratio is better for those people?
What would you say? Because I feel like what Amanda was saying is that not so much as you're on it, is that yes, the ratio of your quality of following versus, because once you get rid of those bots, then the algorithm realizes, oh wait, you have more quality followers. Therefore, you're more valuable, right? Not valuable, but you become more visible. Is that true? You become more visible to those who you're trying to attract almost? Is that the right word? Yes,
actually, that is absolutely correct. And I can say that from experience because, like I said, I'm ashamed, but I'm not embarrassed to admit it. Right. I mean, I had bought followers before, like I said, last year. Part of it was an experiment, and part of it was because so many people seemed to kind of watch on when it seemed like you had a higher following. And so it's kind of like what you said, back in the day when this wasn't regulated as much, that probably did get people to really shoot up in numbers, numbers of quality followers as well, because it's like what you said, not wanting to miss out on the party. And so people were kind of following along because they saw somebody had, you know, really high numbers.
Right.
But now, because Instagram goes in and regulates that themselves even, it's not as great of a thing to have anymore. So I had actually, I don't remember the exact total. I want to say it was actually around 2,000 that I bought, and that's only because you can buy them in really large quantities for like hardly any money. I bought 2,000, and so all 2,000 of them had all come from South America. So I thought, okay, well, this will still help because my numbers are, you know, 2,000 more people strong. So that's got to, you know, do something, right?
Absolutely.
But instead it didn't, because the majority of them were all from out of the country, and they obviously never interacted on my account. They didn't like, they didn't comment. And then even themselves, if some of them were bots or not, the algorithm instead reads, you know, who they are, where they're from, what their interests are, and then base whether or not it shows your posts to those followers. So instead, all of my things were getting shown to people that were obviously not interested, not even just the 2,000 followers. It was 2,000 followers and others that would be like them. So it kind of reads that as, okay, this is who she's trying to reach, so we'll start sharing her post with people that have these same similar interests as these 2,000 people in particular. Right. And so my post then, at that point, it wasn't just that they were being seen to those, you know, fake bot accounts. It was accounts that had similar interests as those accounts did. So it wasn't finding potential interior design clients, other creatives, anybody like that. Instead, it was finding people that, you know, weren't in this particular country, weren't interested in services like that, and so it wasn't getting shown to anyone. But
so much sense.
as soon as I eliminated, so I had to knock myself back 2,000 followers, and that seemed like, oh my gosh, I'd done all this just to get ahead, and then now I'm just having to go back again.
Spend $10 on those 2,000 followers.
I actually managed to gain back all 2,000 and then some in a matter of 3 months. That's a lot.
Absolutely.
In 3 months' time, especially for me, I don't really necessarily have a really massive following, and that was a lot to gain back in a very short period of time. And then all of them were actually quality people, because now my posts, it's like they were almost being just lost out in the ether. They were just going to accounts that didn't care about what I do for a living. It was going to people that were never going to care. And so as soon as I eliminated them, it like opened it back up to all the people who do care. And so then it was like it was being found again.
Right.
Otherwise, it was really just almost like it was just completely invisible.
Maybe
it
you
wasn't
should
showing
bring
up
your
to
business.
anybody.
Oh, sorry, Amanda. Maybe you should bring your business to South America. It could be really big time down there.
Yeah, apparently.
Adam was saying, he goes, those $10, man, those hurt. No, and it's true, And the thing is, though, Amanda, is that, like you just said, is that, my gosh, I never thought of it that way, is that, you have these bots and then you begin to become appealing to their following, which is not the kind of following you want. And then it really is completely pointless at that point. Yeah.
Brazil's looking for Amanda Cooper's studio down on Calle 33.
Hey. You be nice. All right. Okay, so Amanda,
I'm here for comedic relief.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so Amanda, what should our feeds look like? So we've talked a lot about hashtags, we've talked about following, but what should we be posting? What should our feeds look like aesthetically? And another question that I'm going to tack on to it as well is, should we be commenting more? Should we be interacting with other accounts that we're interested in? And is that something that's also going to help us in that whole algorithm scheme of things?
In answer to that question, yes. It actually does. I've noticed that, I always try to go in and especially the accounts that I really like the most.
Mm-hmm.
I follow about, actually I just went in and I know this would sound bad because it's kind of directly going against what I've said about trying to gain followers. I actually went in and eliminated about 700 people that I follow, only because I feel like I wasn't being a very quality follower to them.
Okay.
A lot of them I followed out of, wanting to be a very nice person and follow them back.
Mm-hmm.
But in reality, they weren't things that I'm inspired by, and so my feed was being filled with a bunch of photos that I don't even like,
right.
Which is exactly what Instagram's whole very purpose, again, is to get followers that actually like what you post and are interested in what you're having to say. And some of those things I was just, being the obligatory person that was saying, okay, well, I'll follow you back. Thanks for following me, that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And so, while I hated to really do that because that meant several of these people were getting unfollows from me on their account,
Mm-hmm.
I think in the end run, it'll be more useful for their accounts having had me do that, because now on my own news feed, I'm happier to see the posts that are on there because they're from, not as many people that are just filling up the feed with just posts that I don't enjoy myself.
Right.
And so therefore when I'm seeing ones that I really do enjoy, which is obviously, again, this whole purpose of this algorithm, it's made it to where I have more accounts that I really truly want to interact with. And so I've also noticed, in regards to your question, is that I always, on a daily basis, try to go in and like people's posts, that I see on my own feed, because that's why I'm following them, is I do like their account. That's also why I wanted to eliminate so many, is because I wanted to go back to things that I enjoy. Mm-hmm. And so I've noticed, though, that on especially days where, because I'm an introvert, even though I'm on social media, there's some days more than others where, I'll like, but I don't comment because I'm just not feeling as talkative that day.
Uh-huh.
But I did notice the days where I am actually in the mood to do that, that when I actually comment back on other people's things, even if it's just to say something like, happy Friday, and, I hope you're really having a good day.
Mm-hmm.
I've noticed that people will respond.
Absolutely.
They'll probably go in and like my post, most of the time too, but sometimes they don't then go in and comment and interact. But I noticed on the days where I reach out and do that more, and it's the person to initiate it, I notice then that they go back and actually go on my feed and notice that, they haven't seen the last 5 posts. They'll actually go in and like them and leave a comment.
Yeah.
And so it's almost like you going in and interacting with other people reminds them that you're there. And they're like, oh my gosh, she's always so nice, or he's always so nice to comment. I really should go in and comment and check his stuff because, now that I think about it, I don't think I've seen some of their posts recently, which, yes, is due to the algorithm, but some of that is because you weren't looking for them. They were maybe a person that you followed because you do like them, but you tailored your feed by your actions to not then show their post on your feed because of the fact that you weren't searching for them, you weren't commenting, you weren't interacting. So if you're interested in seeing some more of these particular accounts that you do enjoy following, it does help to go in and interact with them more because those people's posts will actually then start showing up on your feed more often. It's a whole back and forth between you getting your post out and people's posts getting into you, because in some ways you're actually being the cause of not seeing other people's posts show up on your own feed due to your actions on Instagram. You're actually blocking their posts from being seen on your own because you're not interacting with them on a regular basis like that.
Absolutely.
It's a big time scratch. You scratch my back, I scratch your back kind of thing.
Yes.
Kind of, yeah. It's funny. I have Lighting, Amy, Adam even knows her now. And same thing. She'll come in, she'll be like, oh my gosh, I didn't see your post. And then she'll go and comment and like all my pictures. And I'm like, thank you, And you know what? It's funny because you and I, Amanda, yes.
For everybody that's out there, this is such a crucial. I think this is one of the biggest thing is interaction. That's I think one of the biggest things with, I think Amanda will probably touch on in a second, is that I think the algorithm now is really wanting interaction.
Absolutely.
I think this is really a crucial point for people.
That was the name of
just not to observe, it's to really interact with your peers.
Absolutely. Sorry to interrupt you, but babe. No, but that was the name of the article. It was actually called Zuck wants you to act more human on Instagram. And it's one of those things that interaction really does. And you actually, Amanda, that's how I found you. When I started to use my Instagram more, I switched over from being more personal into actually using it more as a business account. I started to notice more of the kind of people that I was interested in seeing in not just my feed, but in the other one. So when you click over, what is that, the popular feed or whatever it is. And I started to see just a bunch of different designers. They started to pop up more and more. And then I started to click through, and then I started to like, and I started to comment. And that's basically how you and I met, was through doing that. I found you through the popular feed, thank goodness. But no, it really is true. I mean, that, before I wasn't seeing the Instagram accounts, the fashion. What is wrong with me today? I'm off the design. Yeah. I wasn't seeing all the design accounts. I was seeing more of just kind of like you just said,
a little bit of everything.
People, just random people. And because I started to switch my interactions and my activity, it started to shift the people that were actually coming up on my feed. So that is so true. Just to verify everything you just said, you are so right, Amanda, about that.
Right.
Can I? I think this is a little off topic little bit, but what about Instagram ads, in the sense that because what about they're in your same area and you're trying to keep that same niche? Is that okay? Is that are you still gonna reach the same people, or is that different, or is that just sometimes a waste of money? Or I don't know if you know where I'm going. It's just kind of random, but do those kind of work to really help your following? I'm kind of asking.
To take out ads if they help your following. I think they can, because it has in there, and I've taken on a couple, where you can actually go in and tailor who you want it to go out to. So you don't simply just go in and then just pay a certain sum for advertising. It actually asks you to go in and narrow down your demographics. So it'll ask you what areas you're wanting to reach out to. It'll also ask for age groups. And then I want to say, I think if I'm not mistaken, it will also ask you what your key demographic interests are. I may or may not be confusing that with Facebook's, because they also do the same thing. They're now the same company. They kind of, mix and match things across both platforms. But, I mean, it's definitely been targeted to a specific group, so not everybody will see the ad. It'll be tailored to ones that you actually want to see it. And in a way, by them having changed the algorithm too, that's kind of what Instagram was encouraging for business accounts, was that they wanted us to take out more ads as a way to kind of, a way for them to kind of make some profits by also getting businesses to buy ads. But I don't see where, just because that's the case on their end, where that's, unhelpful or harmful to your account to do so, because thankfully you can tailor it so it's not just going out into the ether to anybody to see it. It's going to specific people that should hopefully match your target audience.
Perfect.
Have you been successful with getting the followers from that?
From what I can remember, I wouldn't see if it was significant, like really significant numbers, but at the time that I did it, it was also when I had bought those followers. So I'd probably be best to go back and have to do another case study on that now. Having more quality followers and having people in there that weren't really useful to my organic growth. But at the time, it did manage to reach some people, so I did gain some followers on it that were quality. So I'm sure somebody who didn't have that, being the instance on their profile would probably have much better luck than I did.
Very cool, very cool. I think it's some good info, though. Good info for people who are just still trying to, spread out their wings within the social media realm.
Right, and experiment, I think.
I think the biggest thing with anything in social media is really experiment and then find yourself within your demographic of niche of people.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Exactly.
So switching gears, Amanda, what should our feed look like? How important are quality photos? Should we be buying professional cameras, or are our phones good enough? Or what should really our aesthetic look like on our feeds?
So I was talking about this the other day too, and I was trying not to hurt anybody's feelings, because I know some people, if I probably looked through their feed, I could probably name several photos that I could tell you why it didn't work. So I didn't want to call anybody in particular, but and I'm sure I'm maybe guilty of this or not, but a lot of people, especially on accounts that, unlike mine, where I post a lot more inspiration photos, especially when I don't have projects ongoing. Other people, especially the ones that have more projects that are happening, or work that they're completing, if they're an artist or graphic designer that's kind of in progress, or they visit somewhere and they really find, like especially if you're an interior designer and you're going to market and you see some, items there that you really like. I think everybody thinks that, by sharing what you put on your feed and being more personal, that definitely does help. But I think it also matters in what you choose to share where, in stories versus in the feed. I think in the feed, they want to hear about what you're working on and they want to see what you're working on, but they're quick to not like a photo if in the 2 seconds that it takes to swipe past it, if it doesn't catch their eye. And unfortunately, most of the time when there are in-progress photos or, like a photo of a product that's the photo itself, doesn't mean the product isn't good, but the photo itself isn't appealing enough.
Right.
Somebody's not going to stop to like it, much less comment on it if, they're going through and scrolling really fast and just clicking through things. Most of the time that's kind of how I go through and look at accounts, only because I'm on Instagram so many times in a day and I have to go through so many different things, but that's kind of unfortunately all the time I have is to go through as many people as possible and like and comment on them that way. But I do know some other people, and a friend of mine, Atlanta, she's a photographer. She really likes to delve into each person's post that she goes past and likes to read the caption and really soak it all in. And so she goes through her feed very slowly.
Oh my.
So I think the majority of people, though, for the amount of time that they have to be able to even get on social media, which is nowhere near the amount of time I have to dedicate to it. I know so many other people are much busier with their businesses, and so they only can give, a couple minutes here, a couple minutes there. So likely when you think about how they're using it, they're likely going through the news feed, that home section, and they're going through and swiping up, and then as soon as something catches their eye, they'll maybe stop and double tap it to hit like, and if it's something that really seizes them, then they'll, make the time to comment. But basically, if your photo isn't something that would immediately catch somebody's eye within a matter of 5 seconds or less, they're likely going to just swipe past it. And unfortunately, that's just the nature of the beast. I don't think it's so much that people don't appreciate what you're trying to share, but again, with the fact that the whole point is to grow your following and have, the goal is for each person wants, the greatest number of people following them. Well, at some point, you've got so many people that you follow that you do want to interact, you do want to comment, but obviously everybody only has so much time in a day between personal stuff and business stuff. So I think that you really have to be sure that what you're sharing is not only valid to what your account is trying to achieve as a whole, but that the photo itself is a quality photo, not just in like professional quality, but also what's in the photograph. I think a lot of times, and I can only really speak from an interior design perspective since that's what my particular industry is, but it's the fact that when you go into an interior design account, I think a lot of times we get so giddy about sharing stuff that we saw at market, or a particular progress photo of something, or we recently completed an install but we don't have the professional photos yet, but we want to share little tidbits of the room before the whole thing is released when you've got the full room pictures to show.
Sure.
And I think that's great that you want to share that, and you should share that, but I think sometimes we are looking at it more of what the subject matter is in the photo than thinking of it as the fact that now it's a new art form. It's not just your room anymore that you're sharing with somebody and what you're seeing in person or what the client is seeing. It's what everybody else sees, because everybody else isn't you. They're not there in the project. They're not there seeing the progress on your artwork. They're not there seeing the progress on your graphic design project. Right. They're a complete outsider in this. And so you have to think about, if you step back and you were a stranger to this photo, would it be something that, if it wasn't you and you didn't know the context of it, would you still like it? So a lot of people just think of what's in the photo, like, oh, I love this room and it looks so good that I want to take this photo. But somebody else, if you're only sharing like a small, very small snippet of something, they don't know what the rest of the room looks like. Right. Because to you, you think this is great, I want to share this, but you have to think of it from the aspect of somebody that doesn't see the room. They're not the client. They don't live there. They're never going to tour the home. They're only going to see it through the eyes of what your photograph showed to them. So when you only show tidbits of things, you have to look at it from the aspect of a photographer's eye. Does this have great composition? Does this have correct lighting and color? Is this something that's actually compelling? Does it tell a story? And unfortunately, a lot of times people just take little snippets of details of things, and while it is really beautiful and the item is great, it doesn't always read that way in a photo. Right. And so your feed really needs to show things in context to somebody that is not in your world. I feel like if you really want to share some of those more intimate moments about a room that you're working on, save those for stories. Those always tend to be more informal than your feed does. Your feed, everybody always expects it to be tailored and professional. Mm-hmm. And unfortunately, some photos are just not cut for that because, again, it's not anything against your talent or your creativity or your business. It's just because somebody else isn't there with you. They can't see the rest of the room. They can't see the rest of the artwork or the project. They're only getting like the smallest hint of something, and if the photo itself isn't something compelling and tells a story and compels them to want to like it, much less comment on it, they're just going to swipe right past it.
Yes, that is so, I soaked every bit of that in, because honestly, I've noticed even lately, I've been posting just interiors. This is another thing I wanted to, this kind of brings me to my next question, Amanda. What about inspos? Where are we at with those? Because a lot of people get so ashamed that, oh, I'm only posting inspos, but I'm not posting enough of my work, or they're posting too much of their work and not enough inspos. Because we've seen a lot of powerhouse designers who have posted, inspos. They do it all the time. It's not always their original work. So what is your opinion about that balance between posting your own work and posting inspos?
I actually think it's a greater benefit to have a mix of the both, only because unless you're one of those very fortunate accounts, and again, I can only really speak from the design aspect, if you're one of those really lucky accounts that you always have a project that is at a point to be photographed, or you have enough past projects to constantly be posting photos that were professionally taken, that is great. I totally wish I was one of those accounts, but I'm not. But even then, I mean, one of the biggest, at least in terms of social media, one of the biggest accounts out there is obviously Susie McGee and Becky Owens.
Yes.
But you will find when you go to both their accounts, and they've got these huge mass amounts of numbers. I mean, Becky Owens going to be pushing 1 million pretty soon. Even her account posts a ton of inspiration photos to the point sometimes where it can almost get a little on overload. Not calling her out in particular, I mean just anybody.
Yeah.
Can sometimes get a little on overload.
She's one of our biggest listeners.
Adam says she's one of our biggest listeners. No, but it's true.
You get to Becky, post too many, and so therefore your own work can sometimes get lost. Right. Because if somebody scrolls through your feed, sometimes it would be hard to pick out what project was actually yours versus an inspiration photo. So I have two things on that. One is it should be a balance, because not only do people want to see your work, because everybody, even after all these years in music, in art, in interior design, I mean, everybody still, despite the fact that we work with limited things, we only have a certain color range, we only have so many notes in music, yet there's so many songs that are so vastly different from one another, so many rooms that are different from one another, even though we have access a lot of times to all of the same products and information that others do. No two brains work the same, and so everybody's going to see something in a different way and have something interesting to post of an idea that they thought of, which is great, and you should most definitely share that. But at the same time, again, it's coming back to the being organic and being authentic on Instagram. People also want to see what your thought process is. So it's great that they can see the finished room, but a lot of people, especially when your target audience is not necessarily other designers or other artists or other musicians or whatever it may be. Your goal is obviously to, sell albums, to sell art, to sell your design services, because again, we're talking kind of business accounts here. So you're wanting to reach that, again, target audience. So that's not likely necessarily other creatives in your particular field, because they already do what you do. So they're not likely looking to hire you. They would do it themselves. They have that skill. So you want to show your work, but at the same time you want to show your process. And so people that aren't in the industry, and if that's your key audience, people not in your industry, they don't know where you got that idea. It's not that they're looking to then copy it, because people also feel like if they overshare too much, somebody will just copy the room. I think it's more that they just don't understand, because they're not in that industry. I mean, Instagram really tends to be for more like creative-based industries, but that doesn't mean all users are in creative industries. A lot of them can be, tax accountants or gym teachers or, a guidance counselor, anybody like that, that they're looking for inspiration. Right. Well, they don't understand, again, I can only speak for interior design, but they see pretty rooms, but they don't always know how you achieved it. And it's not that they're looking to, take a shortcut, do it themselves, and find out exactly how you did it. They just want to know, how did you arrive at this? They find the room so interesting, they want to know where it came from. And so sharing inspiration photos just gives them like another peek into what inspires you on a daily basis. What is the driving force behind how you come up with your designs? Even if it's not something that directly related to a particular project, they just like to see, other people that you also enjoy seeing their accounts, things that you find beautiful. I think it just tells a more complete story about who you are and who your business is, to share not only your work, but also what brings you about to that place in your life, and what has inspired you and allowed you to see beauty in the world. I think it's really good to have a good mix of both.
Absolutely, Amanda. Gosh.
What do you know about real estate?
You're so silly.
How can I get inspo for real estate?
Amanda, I apologize for this one. So last question for you here, Amanda. We're approaching our end here, but how do you feel about making friends on social media? Because, I feel like I've already made so many friends from not just interior design, but just in general. Like I feel like this social butterfly, which I'm typically not. I feel like I'm just like you. I'm an introvert. So how do you feel about that? And what can we tell people? Because I feel like even just for ourselves, example, we've made friends with local businesses and we've reached out. All it's taken is one DM to them and say, hey, would you like to collaborate and have, your coffee perhaps in our giveaway, because we do these baskets for our clients, et cetera, et cetera. So what's your take on that? What's your take on really opening up and kind of taking that leap to DM somebody and just kind of make a friend that could perhaps be a collaboration for your business?
This is funny that you asked this because I was in Atlanta today, and while I was there, my husband and I we were actually at a doctor's appointment, and while we were sitting there waiting for the doctor to come in, we were talking about Instagram because one of Asher and our fellow friends on there had just had a baby, and I was talking about the fact that everybody was so excited, and we were talking about her little new one, and I was saying to him, it's so funny. Oh no, I know what it was. We were talking about that, and then I was talking about the fact that one of the fellow creatives on there had actually asked me for assistance with a website. So while I normally don't do that for a living because I am Roseville with graphics, she wanted me to help her out with that, which I love doing, and I've been taking on more and more of that lately, even more so than design projects for interiors. And so I had actually texted her regarding her project, but it was the funny thing that I said to him about the fact that I was texting her. It wasn't just the fact that because she's a client, we're communicating about a project. It was the fact that she's somebody that I've never met in person.
Yes.
But yet we've been following each other on Instagram for years, and it feels like we're old friends to the point where we've never gotten to meet in person, but we're texting each other.
Right.
I know that's just another form of electronic communication, but a text is so much more personal because, when you give out your number, it's usually like friends and family is who you text.
Sure.
Not just like somebody across the country that you've never met and maybe even not talked on the phone to, but you're still texting. It was just so crazy that I was like, oh my gosh, this girl's all the way up in Indiana and I'm down here in Alabama and we've never met, yet we're texting as if, we like knew each other, like really knew each other, like our whole lives, and we're communicating in this way that's so much more personal even than Instagram is. And it's all because of Instagram that we even met each other.
Absolutely.
And so I think it's like, I don't know if that was like their real true intention when they created Instagram to, I know they wanted to create a community, but I don't know if they really at the beginning kind of saw exactly where this was going to wind up. But I hope now that it's turned into what it has, I hope they're really proud of themselves because they've truly created a unique app and a unique community that I think would have far exceeded their expectations of what anyone would have seen this turning into, because the original software and apps and things that were designed for this kind of communication and community were things like MySpace and then obviously Facebook.
Sure.
But when I was saying to my husband earlier, like, the funny thing is where Instagram succeeded and Facebook failed is the fact that their program is created more for the fact that you wanted to share beautiful photos because obviously you can't post if you don't share a photo.
Personality. I feel like I think your Instagram is like a connections of your personalities.
Sure.
Facebook was, I don't know, like
colder. I feel like it was just colder. I feel like it wasn't as, like you just said, Amanda, when you're posting, you're telling a story. You're not, if you're doing it right.
You're doing it for a reason. I feel like when Facebook was like, I like this video, I like this song.
And this is funny, and this is my mood, and this is, but with Instagram, there's so much more to it.
It's personal.
It's very personal. It's almost like a reflection. So absolutely, I think you're right about that. All right, Amanda. So I think that's all I had to ask for today. My last question, because I think a lot of people would love to know this, is what are your favorite apps to use for example, your stories or any apps that you would recommend to anybody out there?
Oh, that's a good one because I actually got asked this earlier today. Particularly stories because I think I don't know if it was. I'm not saying it's me that started anything. I did see a couple other accounts that did it before me, but I've noticed more and more people have started doing this, and I don't know if I had any part in this. I'd like to think I did because I've tried really hard to.
I'll say it. It was me for sure. You sent me some, or you actually communicated some apps to me, and I've started to use them. And they were the graphic, like the words start to come around and float around. And I mean it's like an animation through the stories that I post. And I was like, Amanda's going to laugh because she's going to be like, that was me. But you know what? And it helps so much. I feel like I had somebody write me and they're like, that is the coolest thing ever. I've never, seen that, or how did you use that? So that's why I was like, okay, I got to ask her. Which apps would you recommend? Because there's that one. I can't remember the name. If you can remind me right now. What was that one? The one with the floating, the one that you can manipulate the animation of the words that you write in.
There is one called Word Swag. That's one that I've been using more frequently. Yes. And then the other one that actually has animation to it where you can actually add a snippet of music to it is called Hype Type. That one's a really great one.
Okay, so Word Swag and Hype Type. Those are really good ones, and those are really good for stories. Am I correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, they are excellent for that. I think that I don't, and again, that's what I'm saying. I'm definitely not the person who started it, but I think my overwhelming use of I inadvertently, for my own self, I don't know that it necessarily meant that other people caught on and started doing it because of me. But because of sharing like tech talk and things of how I did stuff, I think a lot more people have been caught onto it more. Absolutely. Is what I mean by that. But I think I inadvertently kind of started something by really creating more on the stories part. Most people, even before a couple months ago, they really just use it for more like the behind the scenes parts of it, and I still think that's great to use it for that purpose. But mine has become more of like, not an ad necessarily, but it's become more of just like a real place to utilize graphics the most. Right. Only because a lot more people recently in articles that I've seen are actually using stories more than even looking at a feed. And so I think that's a really good place to take advantage of turning it into, rather than just showing a lot of super really behind the scenes personal stuff, is a great place to utilize that for even more marketing purposes by using apps like that, because it allows you through the graphics to really showcase more of what you do, including having the screen recording, which I don't know if that's available on every phone, but it is on the iPhone. So where if you have a website, even if you're like a real estate agent, a gym trainer, anybody, if you've got a website, you can go in and do a screen recording and then take that and put it into the Hype Type app and be able to capture part of a website or something that you want to share with everybody, and then put music to it, which also creates a mood when they look at your story, and then also some of the animated GIFs that are now in Instagram. And so it's become more of this whole visual feast for the eyes to be able to look at stories and see something that's like really professionally tailored to reach even more people, since more people are using stories now than even the feed.
Absolutely. Oh my gosh. Amanda.
No, it was great.
Yeah, you've been so awesome. I think you're going to help so many people really build their Instagrams, especially
Follow
for
her.
the first. Yes. So I will link everything below, everyone. And if we've had some hiccups during this Good Vibes Sunday, we do apologize.
Slide into her DMs. Slide into Amanda's DMs and ask her all the questions.
Absolutely. Is that okay, Amanda?
Yes.
Okay. All right, Good Vibers. So we'll see you all next week. Amanda, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for being on. We appreciate you, and we hope you have helped out some of those people out there listening.
Absolutely.
All right, Amanda?
Yeah.
Okay, all right. Good Vibers. We'll see you next week.
Bye.